Hello everyone, welcome to the Global Biz Apps Weekend 2021 powered by Deep 365 Champs. It is J1 today and we hope you are doing well and keeping safe. I am Ankush Grover moderating this session along with Venkata Polisetti. This session is presented by Krishna Vandanapu. Krishna will be talking about 10 mistakes we must avoid in Power Apps. A brief introduction about Krishna. He is a Power Apps community super user for the last 2 years who has provided 280 plus solutions till now, a business application MVP, Microsoft certified trainer, and a Power Platform solution architect. He has delivered 75 presentations in Office 365 and Power Platform technologies across the globe. Before I hand over this session to Krishna, I would like to mention that if you have any queries, please feel free to drop in the chat window. We will take them either during the session, if possible, or during the Q&A session. Thank you again for joining and enjoy the session. Krishna, over to you.
Thank you. Let me know once you guys see my screen.
Yeah, we
Yes,
can
we
see
can
your
see right
screen.
now.
Thank you for the introduction, Ankush. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whichever the part of the world you are connecting from. Welcome to BizApp session, first day. As Ankush introduced me, I'm Krishna. Today's session is all about 10 mistakes we must avoid in Power Apps. Before I jump into that session, I wanted to say we all are creating Power Apps, Canvas apps, and we are deploying there. But there are some cases we see that the app is not working. Some cases end users started complaining that my app performance is drastically low. And sometimes people say that when I perform the update operation, it is working and at times it is not working. We don't know what is happening. So these are all the common complaints or feedbacks we are getting from the end user. So how we could address that and what are all the small mistakes we are doing which are getting end up as a major roadblock after we push the app into production. Okay, so this is my Power App channel, YouTube channel. If somebody want to uh, follow the topics, whatever I'm going through along the session, I have covered most of the topics, whatever I'm going to present today as part of my channel. So you can see in detail, in detail about that each and every topic which I'm going to explain. I've noticed that we are crunching time, so I'll try my best to cover as much as I could. If I could not be able to cover, don't worry. Most of the topics are covered in my channel. OK. So the first one is do not add multiple forms. Most of the times when we are creating apps, example, we are creating apps, we will end up creating one form for new item, one form for edit item, one form for display item, but never ever do that because in Power Apps, forms are expensive controls, very expensive controls. I'll tell you what I mean exactly. Assume that this is a Power App. I am controlling. I'm controlling about my device inventory. When I click on add new device, I see this. What we see here is 1, 2, 3, 18 controls, visibly 18 controls, but unfortunately it is not 18 controls, my friends. Along with these 18 fields, we have 18 labels which describes each and every field. So which is 18 plus 18, 36. Below that, when you expand the form, each and every form has number of data card. Each and every data card come with 5 controls. We all know that Microsoft is clearly describing that ensure that your app is not running out of 500 controls. The time it run out of 500 controls at the app level, the app performance will go down and the end user will experience the performance issue, especially the app is running on a mobile. So having said that, now it is not 32. Now it is 32, 16 into 5. It is going to be 980 controls. Imagine if I had to create 3 forms, which is one is for adding a new item, second one is to edit, and third one is to display, which end up as 240 controls. And then followed by the minimum controls like a button, home control, and the header, this will end up running out of the control. So we always have to ensure that how are we organizing the app. As Praveen clearly said, we have to follow some of the industry's best standards, which Microsoft is keep asking and promoting us to that direction. One of the best practice we must follow is, first thing, understand the user requirement and estimate that how many screens it will consist of. If it is going to be accomplished by 1 or 2 screens, go with forms. If it is not going to get complete 1 or 2 screens, do not create forms. You create independent controls so that you don't have to worry about the error messages and also the star visible, because when you go with that, which is very beautiful, you will get star for all the mandatory fields, but we don't have to carry that. So that is one thing. Second thing, if I had to create multiple screens, ensure that your form has many features. A form is not only to submit it. Form has default mode. Under default mode, we can define what mode my form has to behave as, whether it is a new form, edit form, or a display form. How we wanted to do, we can define here. And also, when you are creating forms, when you submit form, immediately it will expect the item to be displayed, because in Power Apps there is no concept of new forms. We are using edit form and we are mimicking the edit form as to behave as a new item. So as the name says edit form, it always expect an item to show as part of the form, which is nothing but this fellow. By default, this will be blank. So how we have to do, how we could achieve that? As I said, I have 9 more. If I get time, I'll show it and show it. And at the end of the video, sorry, at the end of my session, if not the entire topic, how we could leverage and how we could create one form into multiple, I have explained in my channel. Just go ahead and follow that, because this is very critical. If you do not follow that, you will end up in a very bad shape with the performance. And the second one is, don't use regular gallery. Why? Why shouldn't I use regular gallery? What is a regular gallery? First of all, if I go back to Power Apps again, if I create a new screen, under new screen, if I want to add a gallery, there are three type of galleries we have. Basically, vertical, blank, vertical. I'm not considering that. I'm considering only 3. If you notice here, there is something called flexible height gallery. Never use the regular gallery, which is vertical gallery. Always use the flexible height gallery. I'll tell you the reason behind that. Imagine this is my control. This is my app wherein I want to show each and every record of my data source. When I'm trying to show the data source and I am not confident that how many records or what is the length of my record or what is the length of my field. If you are not confident about length of your field, and if you add a vertical gallery, if you notice here, the height is static. Height is usually it comes like this, but if the data is more than that text, what happens is it will chop out the data. The height won't get automatically adjust, because if you notice here, auto height is off. When the auto height is off, the text will not get wrapped. But if you add a flexible height gallery, you will have to define what is the height of each and every label. And beauty is that in the data in this gallery, whatever the gallery template, it will automatically wrap, which is what I'm going to show here. When you see here, this is the regular gallery, wherein if you notice the first value, when you notice the first value, it is not showing the full text, but the very same thing I can show very clearly as part of my this one, the what you call flexible height gallery. OK, if you notice here, the same thing we can show as part of the flexible height gallery, because the flexible height gallery will automatically expand the height of the template. OK, this is also you could see the complete details as part of the video in my channel. The next one is avoid data tables, use galleries only. most of the times what we do is, okay, fine, I need to show the data. So how to show the data? Data can be shown in two ways. One is data table or in gallery. So think about this. When I just add a data table, which is beautiful, the time I add the data table, it automatically shows the data in a grid format. I don't have to customize anything. But the downside of this data table is it is read only. You cannot perform anything. It is damn annoying factor that I cannot do anything. And if you go here under data table and just say on select, there is no such property at all. On select, I cannot even see a property called on select, which means that it is just to show the data. As long as you know that I'm not going to perform any next level operation on this, then you use data table. If you want to perform the next level operation, say that I want to click this and go to the next level, this is not your friend. This is absolutely a wrong bit. Only one advantage is that if the text is beyond the column width, I can drag my columns dynamically. This is out of the box. But if you want to raise the height of the row, you cannot do it. All these things you can do with the help of a gallery. Again, I promote flexible gallery. If you go with a vertical gallery, you will end up having running out of the space. When you can use vertical gallery, Krishna, if user is very clear that I don't want to see the entire text, you can display the description first 30 characters, and then you can show me dot dot dot. If the user is okay with the substring of the text, then vertical gallery is the right fellow. Okay, so always try to use gallery only, because in gallery I can even customize the gallery like the way I want. If I want to make my rows alternative color, I cannot do it in data table, but in a gallery I can make my alternative colors happily. I can do, and mouse over, I can make mouse over colors also. And if I want to make my height of the gallery, height of the row like the way I want, I can do. Only flexibility with the data table is I can just expand it, and if the data table is connecting with Dataverse, I can also select whichever the view I want to select. These are the only two advantages when I go with the data table. But rest all are limitations. The biggest limitation is data table is just read only. You cannot perform any operations when you add data as part of data table. And the next common mistake we do is that don't we always use drop down for everything. We always try to use dropdown when I want to show data as part of my app. But the problem downside with the dropdown is dropdown can only handle 500 records. If the dropdown, if my data source is more than if my data source is coming more than 500 records, unfortunately a dropdown cannot handle it. So how I can do that is Combobox. So if you are not sure about your data source, unless and until if you are showing as part of a choice, then you go to drop down. If you are not sure, and if you are getting the data out of a data source or from a table, always go with the combo box. And another beauty with the combo box is that you can show the data from a larger data set. If you notice here, I am rendering my data in the combo box from 215K records, which is more than 2 lakhs records, right? And happily, I can just say now if I say Jim, it will filter out all the records and it will show only the records which are related to where it's starting with. 1 second, and I say T. Give me a minute, it will just take a minute. There you go. It is starting everything. It will filter out everything with the T. Now if I say TO, since the data is very huge, it is taking. But end of the day, there you go. End of the day, what I wanted to say is that this facility, this kind of a search facility, I cannot provide as part of this drop down. OK, so always first understand what is my data source, how I can do that. most of the times people say that you can create a collection. Never ever do that. Always provide the items property with this kind of a filter. When you filter when you filter the data source with the start with it, you can search the employee name which is starting with whatever the text I am providing as part of my search. And another beauty with the combo box is when you are creating a combo box, when you look at the combo box, most of the features are very handy. Number one feature is I can enable my combo box as a has search or not. I can say is searchable or not. And also that search I can define across what are all the fields, whether it is a full name, title. I can add much more fields. I can add my search should be among these fields. Another thing is that I can change my combo box with the default text. If you see here, I can say provide full name, which is called input mask. I cannot place input mask for a dropdown. There is no such facility for input mask for dropdown. So for a combo box, I can provide an input mask and I can say what is this field is all about. And much more properties I can set. Due respect of time, I'm not covering everything. Again, this topic also you can see complete details as part of my channel. And the next one is don't write the code without implementing exception handling. Most of the times what we will do, we will write the code and we will push the app into production. But if there are any exceptions, it will end up giving a dirty message stating that something happened wrong. But no one knows what is the issue. So what I mean to say is there are many functions we use and we don't know what are we going to get. One of the best example is now if I want to just get the manager for one of the resource in my team, there is no manager for this. I have handled the exception properly in my code so what I can see the exception or the issue clearly over here. If I have not handled that exception as part of my app, it will never show that, rather it will show an error message. So how I can do that is there are functions called is error, if error. These are the functions which helps you to handle the exception. There is no try catch block, my friends, in Power Apps, but there is a way to handle each and every exception in Power Apps. So always implement exception handling in Power Apps so that you can handle each and every exception so that end user will not get frustrated on what is the issue. OK. Any questions so far?
Yeah. While search is supported in Combobox.
Sorry, say that again one more time.
Yeah, Krishna, is the while search is supported in Combobox?
While search is unfortunately no. The thing is yes, while search is supported in Combobox if the data source is Dataverse, because the search is a delegable function when it comes to the Dataverse. Search is non-delegable function when it comes to SharePoint as a data source. It always depends on the data source what you are providing. If you see in my previous example, when I was walking through with the combo box, my data source is SharePoint. So what I had to use start with. If it is not Dataverse, sorry, if it is not SharePoint, if it is a Dataverse, I don't have to use start with. I can use the while it works in complete search as in and while search also it works. Again, it depends on the data source, which data source you are choosing as part of your app.
OK. And is there any limitation on how many fields we can select for search property?
As of I know, 12 fields you can define unless there is any change recently.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Krishna. No more questions as of now.
I see one more question as how can we create multi-select dropdown in good question. How you could do that is when you go to the dropdown and say allow multi. If you see here, there is something called allow multi. I made it as true, right? So similar, if you say since my selection is multi allowed, and when I start selecting the people, it immediately starts showing the records here down the in the grid below. So if you see here, my combo is more than one. It is multi select is enabled. Very simple, but in dropdown you cannot do that. Multi select is only there for combo, and the property is right here. When you go to advanced and say mul, you will be able to see all the related properties related to multi select and multi value delimiter. Okay. The next one is don't add the similar operations one after other. What does that mean exactly, and where do we do that? When we know that there are some data, there are some lists we wanted to use it as a static list. Most of the times when the data is a master data, what do? We will load all the data into a collection and we will use that collection across my app. And I know that my master data is not going to change within the user session level. What do? We will go to app on start event of the app, and we will start writing this as clear collect collection, and always follow the variable standard as collection. If you are creating collections, always prefix with collection so that the person who is going to sit in your seat after you will understand what is the type of the variable. Collection sample one. Now what I can do, I can always define my table name, which is something like employee, like this. If I do like this, what it will do, it will dump my data into a collection. Can anybody tell me how many records it will come? It will load the records as per your app limitation. If the app limitation is 1000, it will load only 1000 records. If the app limitation is 500, it will load only 500 records. And we all know we cannot define more than 2000 records, because the maximum limit I can define is 2000 and minimum limit I can define is 1. So always remember, my friends, when you are creating a collection from data source directly, or even if you create a filter also, it will only load the app limit level data only. It cannot load more than that. Though your filter query is satisfied with more than 500 records and the app limitation is 500, the collection will load with only 500 records. Now this is one, and now I'm creating one more as collection 2, and I'm doing this. What happens is when you run this app, all these statements will run in a sequential fashion, and it will take decent time, depends on number of statements you have at the app on start. Rather, you can always use concurrent statement. Use the concurrent. So concurrent will always supports multiple formulas which you wanted to run at one go. So what it will do is it will do the parallel threading. It will not wait for the first statement to get complete. It will schedule the first statement in thread 1, and thread 2 it will schedule the second statement. This will immensely change your app performance, and user will not have to see the entire time until you complete the app. They don't have to look at the app on start spinning screen. OK. Do not use collection for gallery. This is what I was explaining just before. Why I'm saying do not use collection for gallery is when you create a collection with a filter, it cannot load more than the app limit. But if you think that my collection has to load more than that, it will never load. It will only load as per the app limit. So always try to give a collection always try to give the gallery with your direct filter statement only, unless and until you know that I am not going to show more than 50 records, or unless and until you know that only the criteria which are matching. In this case, I am using collection because I know if my full name is matching with the selected records. Whatever the selected records, now I'm pumping my data into collection. This is different. I'm keep on adding. If you see on change event of this gallery, this combo box, I'm pumping data into collection. So I'm adding, keep on adding. So this time it will not wait for my app limitation. It will keep on add. But if you just say filter, create, collect with a filter statement or a lookup statement. Lookup will always give one record anyways, but if you write with a filter or a search, search will also give the entire record set which is satisfying your search criteria, but unfortunately that will also return only as per the app limitation. Okay, so always remember that when you are creating a gallery, and if you assign the gallery with a collection, you might not see the actual result. You might be missing some of the records which you are supposed to see as part of the result set. And the next one is don't create numerous global variables and collections. Me being the architect and the team lead, most of the times I do code review. What I have noticed is as and when people they wanted to see a value, immediately they'll say set gvar. Again, it says the global variable abc, and they will assign some value. In a traditional language, traditional programming language, also we have something called global variables and local variables. So local variables will, the scope of the local variable is within that function, whereas the global variable is within the program. So similar concept, there is no difference in this. So concept is that when you create a variable as set, the variable will live until unless you close the session. But when you create a variable as update context, that is a local variable, meaning that, so when I come onto my home screen and I know on visible in this screen, I need to create one variable. I know very clearly that I'm going to use that variable only in this screen, then never create as a set, because I don't want to use that variable outside the screen. Always create that variable using update context. So now update context lvar abc and say sample. Now what happens? The scope of this variable is only up to that screen level. How could you say that, Krishna? Go to view variables. When you go to variables, there is something called global variables and there is something called screen level variables. If you click on here, the variable is the gvar is located at the global variable level, whereas lvar is located at the screen level. As it shows that I cannot access my lvar outside this screen. Now, if I go here and if I create one more screen and add a label, say this, it will not be accessible. But whereas gvar, I can access. I can access the gvar. Why it is not working is if I go here, then it will, when I come back, it will work. It is not loaded. Now, if you see, gvar is sitting at the app level. What is the problem? OK, I create and do that. Remember, guys, when you create collections, collection is always a global variable. The scope of the collection will live as long as your user session is running. When you create global variables and collections more and more and more, the app will have to take that much memory. A good programmer will always think about the device, which device the user is using. If it is, I cannot force my user to use only the desktop, because the mobility is the primary factor when you are creating Power Apps. If you are not considering mobile users and creating collections and global variables the way you want, it will definitely harm the user when they are running the app on the mobile, period. It will block that much memory to store all the values as long as you are running the app. If you are not considering that, one day or the other day, your app will be decommissioned. OK. Any questions before I go further?
There is one question here.
Sorry, one after that, please.
Yeah. Can you please explain what scenarios we should not use concurrent operation?
Concurrent operation. What are all the places you should not use is that I know that I have a dependency of my previous operation. Don't use concurrent. Don't use concurrent. Example, if I come here, I am creating the collection 1, but my next filter or a collection I have a dependency of this collection. Then don't write both of them into concurrent. It has to be as a sequential statements only. Concurrent is only a good scenario when you know that these set of statements I can run in parallel. Example, another example is I have a farm. This is a farm, but imagine that I have all these controls as independent controls. As and when I say reset or I cancel, I need to reset all the controls on the farm. So if I say reset text box 1, reset text box 1, again reset text box 2, reset text box 3, this will take time. I don't have to have a dependency that first text box had to get reset, then only I can go on to second text box. No, that's not the case, right? That time I can use concurrent, so that what happens, all the controls will be reset in like that. It will be get reset like that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. If you still have a confusion on that, please go ahead and shoot your question. I can answer that. So that is the advantage, or the that is the point we always have to remember when we are creating variables in the Canvas app. And the next one is, do not deploy app for every small change, which is funny. Why not? We can deploy every app, every change. No. Imagine that I have created an app. End user started complaining that the app is not performing well, or the app is not performing so and so operation. You don't know which operation it is causing the issue. So what you have to do, you will have to change some code and you will deploy. Even after that, it is not working. How do you know which issue is causing that problem? What part of the code is causing that problem? So always remember, there is something called debugging in Power Apps. How do you do the Power App debugging? Monitor. Use the monitoring feature and debug that. Even if the app is in production, even the app is in QA, you can do the debugging. But one thing you always have to remember is, if you want to debug the app, you always have to add something called trace. When you add trace, you will be able to see what is the outcome, or up to what level my app is executed successfully. Example, if you see here, I have a trace here, and I have a trace here, I have a trace here. Now, if I go and run this app by opening the debug monitor, I'm running the app now. This is how a monitor session will come. And the another beauty with the monitoring is, when you want to share your output or a log, you can download the log and you can share it to the end user, or the admin, or the tech lead, whoever want to look into that issue. You can share it to that person and they can look into that. So now if I just say get manager, now I don't have any action value, but here I can see the operations, each and every operation very clearly. If you notice here, it clearly said that debug started with the user. This is the user. How many rows got collected? One row collected, but it is not able to perform the operation. And it also shows that what is the output of my operation. If the operation is success, it will return 200. If the operation is fail, it will return 404. And also it will show you how much time it spent. If the time, that particular statement, that particular operation took 300 milliseconds. Remember, it is milliseconds, not seconds or the minutes. It is milliseconds. And what is the data source it is communicating with? Here I am communicating with Office 365 users to get the manager of the provided username. So I can see, OK, this is the data source it is communicating. That is when it is causing issue. No, that is not the time it is causing issue. The second time when it is triggering for manager. So if you go here, the beauty is when you select this record, go to details, go to formula, you can see what part of the formula it is getting failed and what is the request and what is the output of the request. And if there is any response, you can see the response also. This is a best friend for each and every maker of Power Apps. If you don't know monitor, please learn monitoring. Without having monitoring, your development is a nightmare. If you know the monitoring, how to do the monitoring, you will know many things. What where and all it is getting failed, and where and all it is taking long time. If somebody is complaining about your app that it is taking long time, you can prove that no, my operations are not taking long time. See here, it is taking just that, which clearly shows that your network is not up to the mark. Probably it is network issue, not my app issue. So always add the trace logs so that you will be able to understand where and all your app is causing the issue. If you add more trace logs, what happens, Krishna? Unless and until they open monitor, these trace logs are not getting logged anywhere. We don't have to worry about it. It will not log unless the admin or the techie opens the app in monitor mode. Okay, fine, very good. I open, but now the app is in production. How do I do that, Krishna? Now you come to the app make.powerapps.com and you will be able to see all the apps which you have access onto. Select the app which you want to monitor, which the app is already in production or already in QA. So select the app for the published app and click on the monitor. This will open a monitor session for the published app. If you this, how do I know? The session always shows with a GUID ID. This is the ID of this session, and when I come here, this is a different session. They both are not same. And the difference, how do you figure out whether it is running against a published app or running with a development in a development phase? This is the one it shows. Play published app means that he is running against a published app. He has not opened the monitor from the developer panel, developer session. Now, if you click on the published app, it will open the app and it will also clearly shows that, hey, you are connecting a monitor debug, and you will be able to, the person whoever is monitoring the app will be able to see whatever the data which is supposed to come as part of the operation. And also it will clearly shows one red recording dot, and it will clearly give a border on both the sides. But when you run the app, it will not it will not come with that kind of a border. When you see that, it will not be dot and there is no red recording or red what you call the highlighter there. So this will help you to ensure that my app don't have to be deployed many times. If you add too many trace to ensure that where my particular statement is getting failed as part of your app. Next one is don't make numerous calls to the data source. What does that mean? If you know that my my app is going to have 7 tables or 7 lists or the master data, and which I'm going to use that data across my app, do not call that list everywhere on every screen. Call that create a collection at the app start and leverage that collection across the app. Because if you are making that kind of iterative calls in the app, every time when you go to a data call, it is an expensive call. It might take 2 seconds or it might end up with 20 seconds, depends on your network performance. Another issue is most of the times users are crazy and they want you to add a profile picture as part of the gallery. Never ever do that mistake, because this is very expensive call. Each and every profile picture I have to go to Office 365 data source to get the user profile. If the profile exists, very good, it will show that. If the profile is not existed, it is a waste of call. And another thing is that to get the profile, it will take 2 calls, not even 1 call. It will take 2 calls. First, it will identify the user and then it will get the image of that user. To show you that, open the monitor. And if I play the app, usually it will take 2 to 5 seconds. Meantime, if you have any questions, please go ahead and shoot your questions. I can answer your questions.
There are a couple of questions, Krishna, so I'll just start quickly.
Go ahead.
Yeah. There's a question from Vipin Kumar. Don't we use variable to reset control on forms so that the update so that you update the variable once and you don't have to write multiple lines of code to reset each control on the form?
Good question. It depends on the type of this, how you are building your form. If it is out of the box form, you don't even have to have a variable. All you have to do is reset form. Say that in on the button, I'll say reset form of the form name. That will take care of resetting. If your screen has independent controls, that is when I have to say reset of that control. Each and every control you will have to say independently. Hope that answered your question. Next question.
I believe yes. There's another question from Deepak. How can we bound a heterogeneous source to combo box? Data is coming from multiple connection. Let us say data was as well as SQL on-premise backend table.
Would you mind to say one more time, sir? Sorry.
How can we bound a heterogeneous source to a combo box? Data is coming from multiple connections. Let us say Dataverse as well as SQL on-premise backend table.
No, it is not a good idea. Heterogeneous data is not supported. Unfortunately, the Combobox is only supported today. It expect only one data source. You cannot provide more than one data source to a Combobox. When you go to Combobox, under Combobox, something called data source. Under data source, you will see so you can only provide whatever the data source it is, whether it is SharePoint or a Dataverse. That is the only thing you can provide. If not, you will have to build a collection and build that collection with all your data, club the data and provide that collection as a data source. I don't know business scenario, but that is not supported as of today.
Okay. Another question from Amol Patil. When we embed a Canvas app within a model-driven app and check whether it is running, what it will say? Is it web or otherwise?
Depending on the way how you are embedding that Canvas app on top of model-driven Amol, I don't know the business scenario. Unless I see the business scenario, I would not be able to help you. Sorry for that. I did not get a complete picture of your question.
Amol, do you want to unmute and explain your question to Krishna? Amol Patil, you there on the call?
Okay.
No problem.
Meanwhile, Krishna, you can.
Okay. As I was saying, now if I just had to refresh, now if I refresh, this had read on the code. Now if you see, it went to the Office 365 session. See the Office 365. How many times it went to network calls? Now if I just filter the category equals network. This many number of times it went to the the Office 365 data source to get the user profile picture. And if I just remove that and come here, this time every user it will go and get that. So this is an expensive call. When you are communicating with Office 365 means you are communicating with Azure. So it is an expensive call. It might end up showing the spinner to load the gallery forever. So always try to avoid this kind of a requirement. Try to explain the user. If user is really badly wanted, then you also explain the user that it is going to take time if the data source is very high when you are plotting the data into gallery. And the next one is don't add multiple screens in one app. What does that mean, Krishna? As I have explained in the beginning of the session, Microsoft is clearly stating that app within 500 controls is the best app. If the app is exceeding 500 controls, you will end up seeing the performance issues. If you are keep on adding, you will experience the issue. But how do I do that? Modularize your app. Now, I am creating an app for college, and college will have student registration, student exam, exam related and exam results related, and there are something called sports related to that college. So do not club everything into one app. create one app as a parent where it will always capture the student information. When it comes to sports, create one more app, use the deep linking concept. When you go there, if the parent app is passing a student ID, get the related information from student ID. That is more intuitive and more handy, because if I have to change anything as part of the sports module, I can go and happily be able to change sports module app alone. If I have encapsulated everything into one app as a student's app, and if anything go wrong, entire app will come down. Number two, if I'm working on a sports module and Venkat want to work on a exams related module, we cannot work together, because we all know that Canvas app today supports only one developer. Second developer had to wait for his turn. So, but if you modularize your app into multiple apps and use deep linking concept, you can manage the app happily without any hassle. That's all for today, my friends.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So we have a couple of more questions.
Go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So there's a question from Zakir. How can we create functions for reusable code?
Good question. I will answer that. Go ahead with the next question if you don't mind.
Okay. Can we change owner of the Canvas app without using PowerShell?
Unfortunately, no, but there is something called Center of Excellence tool, COE. When you configure COE gives the facility to change either PowerShell or COE you have to rely on.
Okay. There's another question from Vipin Kumar. If we are collecting master data in app dot restart, how do we know if we need to refresh the collection? Because new data has been created, updated in data source. How to refresh the collection?
I don't advise to do that job first. First, you need to sit down and work on your data, create proper indexing on the data and add filters so that you will be able to show only the required data into gallery. No human in this world can read more than 10 records at a glance. If the user is only be able to read 10 or 20 records at a glance, what is the point to add thousands of records into a collection and assign that collection to a gallery and keep on scrolling? Give filters on the same screen where they can just provide what they are really want to see. Drill down the data and identify the columns where they want to perform the filter. Add indexing on those columns. If it is SharePoint, you can add indexing at the level of SharePoint list. If it is Dataverse, you can create indexing. So when you create indexing, it will perform the filters like that. If you do not do that, you will end up creating this kind of, you will end up in this kind of a bottleneck. I don't advise to do that, but unfortunately, if you have to go that way, you will have to rebuild the entire collection, which might cost you 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 25 minutes. Depends on the data.
And another question from Vivek. While debugging app, will there be any impact on the end users?
Zero.
Nice. Any other questions, team?
And the beauty is that good question. Let me explain some more on the debugging. And the beauty is user don't even know that you are debugging with another user. User one is using and user two is using. Now you are coordinating with user one. User one will only know because you are sharing a session with that user. User two don't even know that don't even know that there is something called debugging going on or monitoring is going on, because he don't see that red dot what I had shown just before.
Yeah, Krishna, there is a question from Deepak. How can we bound an heterogeneous source to Combobox? That data is coming from multiple connections. Let us say data was as well as.
I answered. It's not advised, or it's not possible as of today. Combobox is supported with only one data source.
Another question from Vipin Kumar. How do we check if my app is running on browser or a mobile device?
Again, analytics. How do you know that is? You will have to configure COE, my friend. When you configure COE, you will know where and all it is working. But at a very high level, you can see there is something called analytics. It is in preview for the app level. When you go here, you can see where and all the app is running and who are all using. See device platform, Windows or which version of the Windows. Here you will also see mobile here. If your app is getting used by the end user at the mobile, this is the way. This is under preview as it shows here. You can see. But if you want to know the granular level, again, Center of Excellence is your best friend. It will give you nuts and pieces.
Okay. Another question from Sachin. Should I need to change app ID in HTML web resource, which I have used in code for embed? When moved to other environment, app ID changes. Any solution for this?
Unfortunately, no. Each and every environment will get its own grid. So you will have to plan accordingly that when you are moving across the platforms, first at the time of initial setup, you will have to take that pain, my friend, because it is not the Java code or a .NET code where I'll package and I'll publish. It will pick up that. Unfortunately, it runs with the grid ID, which everybody is experiencing. Microsoft is aware of this issue. They are working on that.
Okay. Another question from Vipin Kumar. In my app, I want to check if my app is running on browser or mobile device. On that, I will have different business logic.
Question itself is not clear.
Okay.
What do you mean
In
by
my
on that?
app,
I have
I want to
business.
check if my app is running on browser or a mobile device. On that, I'll have a different business logic.
You can do device level because when you are writing the code, you see this. There is something called screen size. Now, if you come here. Now I'll say screen landing dot size. It will show you size 4, which means that it is a web. How do I know that, Krishna? When you go to app and come here, screen breakouts 600, 900 and 1200. 1200 is the maximum, which is only for the web. 900 is for smaller screens. 600 is for tablets. Below 600 is always the mobile. So if the screen size is 4, you know that the app is running at the web. If the screen size is 3, the app is not running at the web. It is running either the smaller screen or could be a tablet or a Microsoft device. What is that? Microsoft Surface, because that size is also small. Depends. If you want to tweak those definitions, you can always tweak out here. But remember, that is only pertains to that app. When you go on to the next app, you again, this is the standard dimensions you will get as and when you create the app. Any questions?
So Krishna, there are no more questions.
No, I have to answer one question, Venkat. 1 second. The answer for the question where somebody is asking for the reusable or a function. Yes, you can do. But how you could do is there is something called toggle control. The beauty with the toggle is it has few properties that on change and default. These two are very key for properties for toggle. Default is something true or false. If I say true, it will turn to on. When I say false, it will turn to off. I can tweak that, but the beauty is when I say on change of the toggle, say that notify, for example, say that reusable code. Now, if I go here, when I say off, it will say reusable code. Now, if I close here and say off, on, it will say, which means that I can say on and off. Under this, if I write a code block where it will go and get the data from a SharePoint list or a Dataverse table, which I know that I need to call from many places. One of our friends asked that how could I refresh, create this kind of a control? What is the beauty with this control? I can toggle is one control I can refer from any screen from in that app. Now, if I want to just toggle this control, how I can do that is the default value of this toggle is true, right? If I create a global variable as toggle, this global variable I can set from any screen, right? When I set from screen 4, this will get toggled and the code behind that toggle control will get executed. not to promote that. This is also something I have explained as part of my channel very clearly. Last but not least, I just wanted to show you what it is now. Reusable. That I have explained very. See the reusable code blocks. This is your best friend, whoever has asked the question. This is where I have explained clearly that how I can create a code which I can use many times. So also the other areas like how can I create a reusable forms. This is also something I have explained. Dropdowns I have explained. Difference between a regular gallery and a flexible gallery. Here I have given around 50 videos which explains you various scenarios. I always create a video by taking the pain points from the community. I will create the videos and I'll publish the videos over here. Despite that, if you want to connect with me, you can always connect with me. This is my contact. I'm always active on Twitter and LinkedIn. Venkat knows very well how quickly I answer your tweet or a message.
Yes.
Last but not least, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for your time early in the morning, people out there in India.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining, everyone. We really appreciate your presence. We hope that you are taking away some powerful learnings from this session. And thanks to Krishna for an amazing session on 10 mistakes we must avoid in Power Apps and sharing your knowledge with us. If you have any more queries, please do reach out to the handles that are specified in this chat. Thank you, Krishna.
Thank you so much.